Hi, Adam. How are you today, buddy? Happy holidays.
Yeah, hello, Dale. You got me there?
Yeah, happy holidays. Yeah, I can, Adam.
Hey.
Happy holidays to you, Adam.
See if I can get the webcam going there as well, and then
okay.
see me at work. Yeah, good. Happy to see you, Dale. There we go.
All right.
I got. You see that? I good?
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Adam.
Same to you too. I got my shirt on today. Is all-time high.
And what's underneath it?
This is Nike.
All right,
all-time high.
Yeah. In what? Bitcoin or S&P?
Yeah, everything.
Are they going to cross each other?
I was just writing about a company called Long Island Iced Tea. This news was just crossing. So it's called Long Island Iced Tea. They make like ready-to-serve drinks in New Jersey. And they just changed their name to Long Blockchain Corporation. Shares up to $15 from $2.44 at the close yesterday.
Wow. So yeah, what was happening with .com? I don't know. You were probably still in high school in the late '90s, but do you remember it? Anything with a .com after it?
Exactly.
It had an instant premium.
Exactly. If you're a CEO right now and you're not putting blockchain or crypto in your name, you're not even in the game. I don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm interested in what you think, buddy. We haven't had a major tax overhaul here in the U.S. since Ronald Reagan. And I know that you pay attention to fundamentals a lot. And, it's not like it's having any immediate impact on markets. Maybe the markets, anticipated it and ran into it. The equities did. Do you see any effects from this new legislation that's going to play out in any of the different asset markets that you and I pay attention to?
Well, Gary Cohn was talking yesterday saying, it's not, or even Trump, I think, said it's not priced in yet. People I talk to say it's not priced in yet. But to me, it's got to be priced in at this point. Some of the details might not be priced in, but I think the market might be a little bit more optimistic than it might be, except in certain sectors. So, we've been talking about this for over a year. So how could it not be baked in already? We're like I said, we're at all-time highs day after day, up 20+% this year. And, I struggle to say that it's not old news at this point. And so what happens next? I think it carries through into year end. And then I think January starts to be a much more interesting time. Tech's still sizzling. Obviously, crypto is sizzling. But for, some of these other companies, I don't know. And I think the accountants are looking at it closely too. They might start to find some huge loopholes in the tax provisions, and you might end up with a gigantic hole in the deficit that nobody saw coming. And so these are some of the risks that are out there. And I still think risks are probably skewed to the upside for now, but maybe there's this sell the fact come early January. And I think there's a lot of people hanging on through year end on tax provisions so they can take the hit next year in a better tax code. So there's no sellers right now, bottom line. Right.
So there's that expression, as January goes, so goes the rest of the year, at least in equities. That didn't happen last year or the year before. But I'm interested, since you do a lot of seasonal work, and you just said you're looking for some interesting price activity in January. What are you seeing in the month ahead and the year ahead?
Well, just on the seasonals right now, the big trade the last few years on the seasonal has been gold earlier in the year. And I know gold's boring and beaten down right now, but that's been the best seasonal trade. That's been the way to start your year up 10% for the last couple years, even this year, which was a bit of a dog for gold. Or it seems that way since it's been so long since it's done anything. So that's probably the one to watch early in the year. And you have this U.S. dollar strength into year end, which has been a thing for the last few years, and maybe that unwinds a little bit, and the euro gets going, to be another spot I look at. And then just today, the Canadian dollar looks pretty good. That was a very strong retail sales report, just came out a half hour ago, with CPI a little on the high side, and maybe the Bank of Canada gets back in there and hikes again in January. They've certainly been keeping the market off balance. So there are a few spots where I'd be looking, but I think right now we're in this weird tax phase in the broader market. And then bonds. I think, bonds are up at 250 almost in tens. That's a breakout. And anything against the yen.
Where's it project? Like 305 or so, Adam, if you just take, 265 was the high before the recent pullback to 2. So I think it takes us well over 3, doesn't it? This breakout in yields.
I mean, and you thought, Bill Gross was talking about a huge downtrend since the 80s is starting to come under pressure. And, you probably want to draw that with a bit of a thick pencil, but it's, if you get up and it gets going and inflation ticks higher, I mean, 3, I think you can get a real squeeze on the bond market up to 3.5 if people start to get nervous. And Powell steps in and does something hawkish off the start, then you price in a hawkish Fed, and you get a huge squeeze in bonds, and the yen crosses dollar yen. I mean, 125, 126, 130 at some point next year would be in the cards if the bond breakout is real. But what do you say anytime there's a market moving in really the last few trading days of the year? You've got to be a little bit skeptical.
Yeah, I'm interested in what your thoughts are. I had a conversation with Larry Pesavento yesterday, and he asked me, his first question was, Dale, what's with the dollar? It's not reacting to a weak bond market, higher yields. And I said, yeah, correlations are great till they stop. Do you think there's going to be a continued disintermediation between them, or maybe a reversion to the mean here?
Yeah, I think it will come back together. I think right now the euro is getting the benefit. The euro yen trade looks like it could go, and I think it's just passing through. That carry trade is more built into that. More possible to unwind in that, because you had bond yields so low, and they're up to 42 basis points from 30, 3 days ago. And I think at some point you look at the year ahead and you say, okay, I don't know when Draghi is going to change gears, and he certainly doesn't seem to want to help the euro out, but he inevitably has to. And it's just this waiting game of saying, okay, whatever, I can wait it out. I can wait it out down to 114 or even 110 in euro dollar, or something similar in euro yen. But eventually Draghi's on my side, and this thing's got to go higher. And I think that's probably one. You
think it's pretty unusual? I do that. We have record net long positions by specs in the euro for, I don't know, weeks now, and everyone's trying to fade euro strength. And to me, it feels like all we do is we get these little pauses, and that it's kind of a short squeeze on in there. Does it feel that way to you?
Well, it's funny. That number is scary. It doesn't seem like the market is that in love with the euro, and it is. Just last week, I think, hit the all-time high on the CFD positioning.
Yeah.
But the squeezes, they seem weaker at the moment, and I mean, there's just where's the enthusiasm for the dollar going to come from? The tax cut now, unless you say it's not priced in, but I think we'll find out in the next couple weeks whether it is or not, and then the kind of coast clears for those euro longs on that end, and then sterling looks ugly, but what else can you do but buy where things are getting better? And that's I think it sets up really nicely, even though it should be a bit of a worry that those squeezes are there. But you've seen people over and over say, okay, let's wait for a retracement back to whatever, and it's kind of petered out at 115, and it's doing all right here right now. It's a pretty good looking chart right there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, over yesterday's high, it looks like 120 is a layup, so 121.5 potential. So maybe that's what you were saying, is that this rebound in the dollar into year end unwinds in January, like a lot of things are unwind. And right now we're just in limbo land until everyone gets back from the holidays and volume comes back.
Yeah, I feel it. And but you know, you got to trade what's happening right now. And but even right now, I mean, it looks okay. There's a bit of a wedge there. Dollar yen is kind of into a bit of a wedge as well. And there's just not a lot of data left to come. So
how about the crude, Adam? You know, we've had a great recovery this year in crude, and I had a target of about 62 a long time ago because it was the top of a falling wedge. You have anything seasonally in energy? Maybe the weak dollar could be the push to get crude to break out to new highs, maybe up towards the 62 area. And I'm getting that you're very bullish yen. You were last time you were on as well. So
I am more bullish on the yen process, but I think for oil, we're in now this really the September through December period is negative on the seasonals and very negative. And it's been and it's rallied anyway. And you know, to me, is a pretty impressive sign from oil. I mean, we had OPEC come out and didn't really do anything that bullish, and it pulled back, and now you have crude coming up some of the best levels of the year to finish out the calendar year, and then you get into January, February, which is a better seasonal time for oil through the first quarter, and you know it's tough not to like it, and there isn't that much talk about it. Again, you have that little bit of a wedge pattern up here in the last bit, which is probably typical going into year end. But if we get up over 60 and some of the supply worries start to ease, then there's a lot of potential on the upside.
You know, I had a question from the community, and you know, part of this tax package was repatriation of funds held overseas. Do you think that, you know, I know sometimes we get an effect in the yen near fiscal year end and repatriation in the yen. This might be the first time in a while we've had repatriation of corporate funds back to the U.S. Any effect from that?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, in general, I guess you're bringing it back to the U.S., you guarantee it's in U.S. dollar, but how much of that is held in U.S. dollars offshore as it is?
Right.
But I think on the margin, it is a dollar positive, but what's the timeline as well? I mean, are you in that big of a rush to get it in on January 1st or whenever it goes into effect, or do you say, okay, well, let's find something to do with this and we'll move it over? I mean, the tax code, it's not like a one-time sort of window where you could tee it up, but it's definitely, I think that it plays into the dollar yen, which could end up being a pretty good story next year, or all the yen crosses. Because they're looking pretty good, just on the bond story, the repatriation story, the growth story, everything.
Yeah, so we've had heartbeats in Aussie and Kiwi in the last few weeks. Bear market rally or continuation move, and I think it's taken a lot of people by surprise. We held that major trend line at 75 in the Aussie, and we've had a nice rally. It doesn't seem to want to give up much of the rally. Wonder if you have some seasonals in Aussie or Kiwi for next month.
Yeah, I guess really into the second quarter when you see the commodity currencies get that seasonal lift. So it's a little ways off yet. There isn't too much to start the year, but you know, this is kind of impressive that we dipped down below pretty solid support at this June, November lows. Kind of like the euro on that head and shoulders, where it looked like there was this head and shoulders going to roll over, went down, and then right back up. And even the last few days, it's been holding near the top of the range. I mean, that looks pretty good. Right now, you hear the talk about the RBA and interest rates, and it's very subdued. And you know, they're a little bit worried about housing in Australia, and there are some definite things to worry about there. But one story that didn't get much attention was China this week. They outlined some of their economic priorities, and they removed the part about debt reduction. And you know, the thinking is that China might turn on the taps a little bit next year. They're still going to keep it tight on housing, but some of the commodity prices and that could get another real surprise lift in 2018. And of course, that's naturally great news for the Australian dollar.
And we're talking about gold. January is a great month for gold, and I kind of correlate Aussie with gold. At times, they really correlate tightly. So maybe that's part of the story, is that gold bounces, Aussie bounces next month, and
just looking at the bigger picture. It's just a series of higher lows in Aussie over the last 2 years. So how much downside is there really before the Australian dollar? And maybe you pull up the the yen cross, it might even look a bit better.
Yeah, the Aussie yen has been acting real good. Yeah. Okay.
That's a nice bounce here in the last little.
Yeah, and euro yen broke out, trying to break out. So yen crosses seem to be where your conviction level is the highest going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in the bond story right now and the inflation story. I mean, the synchronized global growth story is the story, and if that, we don't need to overcomplicate it. If that's what's happening, it's still early days of it, and the yen crosses can really go, because you might have every central bank in the world either getting more hawkish or raising rates next year, except the Bank of Japan. And so, I mean, it's simple enough. That's where the growth is. That's where the money is going to go. And it could be a very good year for those yen crosses, for the carry trade, for global growth. That's what we did with all-time high.
Well, Adam, hanging out with you, I get an all-time high. So I want to thank you for all your contributions to our community all year round, Adam. Really appreciate how you come in every time. You pinch hit for me. You're like my designated hitter for me. And you've stepped up many times when I've needed someone to fill in. And it's not like you're a sub. You'd be in my you're in my starting lineup too. And really want to thank you for, what you've done. Every time you come here, you give me clarity, and I have nothing but, I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner, and I hope that you have a great 2018 in all ways, not just financially, for you and your family.
No, it's been a great year this year. And I mean, this Bitcoin mania is really something. I mean, that's that Long Island iced tea chart. It's just a snapshot. They're trading $15 on the blockchain switch. Like, I'm just so fascinated by this story. I think it's such an interesting time to be alive, just to be able to watch it, and the mania just.
That's all I'm doing is watching it. Are you trading it or owning it, or are you doing anything in there?
I mean, you've been writing about it for 5 years and talking about it, but I think you to jump in at this point. Like, I'm just enjoying it. There's other ways to make money, but God bless anyone who happens to own a company that puts blockchain in its name tomorrow, because you're gonna have a heck of a day. So
how about Forex Live Crypto?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we got to do the IPO first.
Have a great holiday, buddy. Thank you so much, Adam.
Hey, Dale, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Have a Merry Christmas, and to all the community there, good luck in 2018. It's going to be a fun one for sure. So take care.
Yeah, and you could follow Adam at FX_button or at Forex Live, and him and Greg do a great job keeping people in tune 24/6 with all breaking news and how to go about trading it. And Adam's one of the best in the business, in my humble opinion. So thank you, buddy.
Right back at you, Dale. Have a great New Year and enjoy the break. If you get one.
Adam Button, everybody. All right, F.A.C.E, we'll wrap it up tomorrow. And thank you, everyone from investing.com, for hanging out with us. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have some ideas, some things to do on a look ahead. And remember, most of all, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios.